Our essential question for today: how do you make and use stem plots and histograms? We will start by discussing stem plots. So a stem and leaf plot, which I shortened to stem plot, is a data display that organizes data based on their digits. The stem is the leading digits, so those are the numbers in the front. The leaf is the last digit, so that would be the number at the end. And then you would use a key that would tell you how to read the data. So if you did any rounding or there were any decimals, that would be illustrated in the key so that you know how to read the stem plot. So a software developer advertised a position at its home office. The list below shows the number of applications the office received per day. Make a stem plot of the data. So on the left side is where you would list your stem. And then on the right side is where you would list the leaf part. So under the stem, those are the leading digits. So you would look in front of each of your numbers. And so you have some that start with 2, some that start with 1. So there's a 2 there, a 2 there. This one starts with a 1. We have 3s, 4s, numbers in the 50s. We even have single-digit numbers. So with single-digit numbers, the leading digit would be a 0. So we're going to start with 0 since that's our smallest stem. And the largest stem is a 5. So we would list all the digits between 0 and 5, even if we didn't have one of those digits listed. You still want to write down all the digits between 0 and 5. It's important to see any gaps in the data display. And so you would still list all those digits, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even if one of those did not appear in your data set. Then on the leaf part, that would be the last digit in each of those numbers. So we would start with the numbers that have a leading digit of 0. And there are 2 of them, the 9 and the 8. And when you write down your leaf, you must write them in order from smallest to largest. So you would have to write the 8 first and then the 9. Now we look for the numbers that start with 1. So we have 18, and that is our only number that starts with 1. So you would put an 8. Now notice that when you line up your numbers, you also line them up vertically so that you can see how the shape of the data is formed. So our 2s, we have 24, 27, 25, 24, 29, and those are all the numbers in the 20s. Make sure that you put them in order. If you have a repeat, like 24, you would write them both. So you have 24, 24, then 25 is the next value, 27, so you're just writing down the last digit, and 29. Now we go to the 30s. So we have 38 and 32, another 38, another 32, and a 39. So 32, 32, 38, 38, and 39. 40s, we have a 41, 42, 40, 47, and another 41. So 40 is the smallest, and then you have 2 41s, a 42 and a 47. Last would be the 50s, 52, 56. Make sure you remember to include the key, which describes how to read your data. So in this case, 3/2 equals 32. And then make sure you include your units. In this case, applications. Next, we're going to talk about histograms. So first, a few definitions. Frequency is a vocabulary word we're going to see a lot. That is the number of data values in a certain interval. So we'll talk about what intervals are as well. Then we have what's called a frequency table. This is going to be used to help us group the data values into equal intervals, so then we can put it into our histogram. Make sure when you're creating this frequency table there are no gaps between the intervals and none of the intervals are overlapping. So it's very important not to have any overlapping intervals or any gaps. Then the histogram is a graphical display that displays the data from a frequency table. So the bars are used to represent the frequency in each of the intervals. That's how many numbers appear in each of those intervals. Some characteristics of the histogram: there are no spaces between the bars. The bars are connected. And it describes numerical, quantitative type of data. Quantitative just means numerical. There's something else that I would like you to note. A histogram is not a bar graph. Bars are used to represent the frequency, but bar graphs and histograms are two different kinds of graphical displays. We use bar graphs with categorical data and histograms with numerical data. So it's important to understand that these two things are different graphical displays. So our example: the number of song requests per day for a 2-week period at a radio station are shown below. Make a frequency table and histogram of the data. So we've got our data values. Note the frequency table is already set up. So you have a column with your intervals, and we'll discuss how to set those up. You have a tally column that allows you to keep your numbers the way they are given to you, and you can just put tally marks in the interval that they belong to as you go through your list. And then at the end, you've got the frequency where you can count up how many tally marks, which counts how many numbers are in each of those intervals. Then we can make our histogram. So let's go ahead and set up our intervals. So we have data values that range from numbers in the teens to 50. Let's start our intervals. So we need an interval set that includes all the teens. So if we go 10 to 19, that includes all the teens. Then we can go 20 to 29, 30 to 39. Now, even though we don't have any numbers in the 40s, you need to include that interval. You cannot have any gaps, no gaps. It's important to be able to see that there are no values in the 40s when you look at your histogram, so you need to include that in the table. Then values in the 50s. Next, we go through and make our tally marks. So the first number is 12, so that goes in the 10 to 19 group. 22, 18, 26, 31, 34, and continue until you get all your numbers. Once you get all the tally marks in there, then you're going to count your frequency. In the first interval group, we have 6. The next we have 5, 3, 0, and 1. So the next thing is to set up our histogram. So when you set up your histogram, you need to make sure that you scale your axes. So I'll have my y-axis, my x-axis. On the bottom, I'm going to set up my intervals. So we're going 10 to 19, next set. Be sure you also describe what that data represents. So in this case, these are number of song requests. So you would label that on your x-axis. On the y-axis is where we have our frequencies. So it'll be 1, 2, and so you just count. And that would be labeled as a frequency. Once you set up your graphical display and have everything labeled correctly, we are now going to create our bars and make the histogram. So the 10 to 19 interval has a frequency of six numbers in that group. So we're going to go all the way up to the 6. Next one was 5, then 3. There was nothing in the 40 to 49 group, so you're going to leave that one blank. And then there was 1 in the last category. And that is our histogram. Okay, next class, we will do more practice with stem plots and histograms and look at a lot of graphic examples and do a lot of practice.